everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in GoodCo, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Okay, super great breakdown. I'm really excited for everybody to hear.
Such a fun one. We're going to talk about Astronomer, obviously. We're going to talk about my big feelings about Range Rover and what they're getting wrong. You know, what else are we talking about?
Tyler, the creator.
Yes, and the no cameras thing, no mics. I think that's going to blow up. We talk about Claire's at length.
Big breakdown about that. Yep. Future of wellness.
Yes, the future of wellness. Dupes. Yes, and some songs in there, some jingly moments just for some lighthearted fun. So hope you enjoy it and let us know in the comments what you thought.
Enjoy. Here we are, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing regularly programmed about anything that we do, but, you know, as regular as you would like to think it would be for us, we are back to it.
Yes, fair enough.
You know. Just going to talk about some fun things today, things from the last 4 letters, not themes, just things that I and you have pulled out that we thought were interesting, worth digging into, talking about more, unpacking, you know, all that good stuff.
Yes.
So I figured, I mean,
we have to.
How can we not start with the Astronomer thing? So for anyone listening that hasn't used the internet in the last week, I don't even know where to begin. Do we begin with like the affair on?
Just like the big picture of what happened, because there are so many memes and things about it. Yeah, for anyone that is living on, you know,
literally, like if you've been, I hope you've been in Brazil, like going down some Amazonian river, like no internet, and I'm just kind of revealing to you the, you know, devastating affairs of the internet today. So, you know, a week ago, 2 people were at a Coldplay concert. They have this big Jumbotron thing. It's a circle. It's very Instagrammable. Somebody was taking a video of it. They switched to these people. There's 2 people there, and suddenly they duck out of the screen. And Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay, is like, either these people are really shy or they're having an affair, which was hysterical that he actually just said that out loud. That felt like something I would do. You know, just thought mouth is how that went. Right. And of course they were. And they were both working at the same company, and CEO, head of HR, how ironic. And then this whole affair unfolds. And to be honest, like, you have to think about the spouses of the other people and just like how horrific this whole ordeal must have been for them. Like, who cares about the people having the affair? But to have your marriage like fall apart, like, and become a meme must be just terrible. Certainly not applauding that. But, you know, the team at Astronomer, so Astronomer is an AI company, and they do a lot of other things. And I guess someone on their team was like, and apparently when this happened, the interest in the company spiked, and people were joking like, oh, maybe they planted this, and it was like, you know, something to do to like increase awareness for the brand or whatever. Of course, that was not the case, but it did naturally increase people's awareness of the brand.
For sure. And there were a ton of memes about it. Like, there was a lot of kind of fodder in the internet, right? Talking about this, kind of making fun of kind of just that moment at the Coldplay concert. And then it came to be like, you know, knowing what Astronomer was. I didn't know what it was before. So it brought it to the forefront for most people of like, okay, this is the thing.
Yeah. And then I say CMO, but I don't know if Astronomer has a CMO or like just a marketing team, or if this was like the interim CEO. Who knows? Somebody at Astronomer's team was like, let's make lemonade out of this moment. And they hired, of all people, Gwyneth Paltrow, who is famously Chris Martin's ex, to basically be this like temporary spokesperson. And she goes on and she's sort of like, she does this whole like little bit, and then she actually educates you on what Astronomer is, which I thought was hysterical. And I think the whole point of this for me, like, you know, well done, well played, but I think it really speaks to sort of like, what is crisis management nowadays? What does it look like for a brand when they didn't make a mistake, but their CEO made a mistake and their head of HR made a mistake? Like, what happens when a brand gets into hot water? And I think that to take it and say, okay, you know, we can make fun of like ourselves a little bit, be a little bit lighthearted, we can play with this and not take ourselves so seriously, and realize like, yeah, you know, things happen, like life happens, and we all kind of know it, and we know that they're not at fault. So it's, you know, like, why not make something out of it? You know, it's not like they did something terrible, but really, as a company. So I just think it's so interesting to see how brands are kind of waking up to the possibility that not hiding from things, like you can't hide from mistakes, that you just can't, and turning it into an opportunity. It was super, super smart.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's interesting, you know, it's like we're seeing more of this stuff happen, not necessarily kind of affairs, but we're seeing brands make mistakes. And I think it's because there's so much spotlight that you can't get away from anything. And we'll talk about it later, Tyler, the creator kind of comment, but it's kind of everywhere, and we can't get away from it. And so I think it's really nice to see companies kind of owning up to it. And I think, you know, as you mentioned, like I saw a post on LinkedIn early days of this, and it was like, you know, think about the family, think about all this. And that's real, right? Like imagine, to your point, like your family being turned into a meme, like nobody deserves that. But the reality is this is happening. It happened. And we're going to talk about it from a marketing and brand standpoint. And I think watching brands fuck up and be like, we're going to hit this head on and really solve it across the board, right? I think it's what Barbie did in the movie, not necessarily fucking up, but kind of saying the thing, voicing the thing is exactly what Astronomer did. They voiced the thing, and then they did it with bravery and with a sense of humor. And I think anytime a brand does that, they win.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really do think it's kind of a new paradigm, because also like an Astronomer brand, like typically not a consumer facing brand, right? Like not at all. And I think, you know, just thinking about B2B marketing, and you could say like they were going to, you know, another version of this, an antiquated version of this, is we send an email, a like really heartfelt email to all of our like, you know, customers, and we say, you know, we know that this was challenging, and you know, and we're making things right, and you know, you do this kind of in this very like we're so sorry.
Yeah.
Like, and you do it privately, right? You do it to the customers. And I think that time is over. Like it's completely gone. And I think also realizing that all B2B are B2C companies, you know, maybe more in this particular case, obviously. But there's a huge appetite and interest for how AI specifically is going to change everybody's lives. And I think that more and more B2B AI companies are getting scrutiny from consumers because they're curious about it. So it's actually really smart to be like, hey, we're going to educate people on what it is and allow people to talk about it and like feel included in this, you know, new future that we're already in.
Yeah.
It's not really a
Totally.
future.
Totally. And I think it is the future of, well, I think it is the new kind of crisis management. Jean did a great LinkedIn write-up, which we should link to, kind of breaking this down when it kind of first happened. And I thought it was really interesting because she's from a PR perspective, really, truly an expert of like, this is the new kind of crisis management and how they handled it. All right. No lessons learned?
Yeah. So let's talk about it. I actually got a really interesting email from one of the readers about Range Rover that I'll unpack about as we go through this.
Great. Can't wait.
We have some car super fans reading. So, you know, Range Rover release. So Range Rover, you know, is owned by the same parent company as Jaguar, just like in case you're not aware, because that
right.
just makes this even funnier.
Yeah.
So Range Rover comes out with not a new logo, but a new emblem. And, you know, when you read into like, why did they do this? They were like, well, we need something that could be small and, you know, like it's a repeating pattern. And you look at it and you're just like, God, like this is just terrible design. But like, you know, let's not even unpack like why it doesn't even look like two R's and it's just a terrible emblem and it looks like a, you know, a bad graphic design project from, you know, a high school student. But I think what stood out to me was that it very much spoke to the consumer I think they have, which is like, you know, they're obviously trying to like reference like luxury patterns, like, you know, that like luxury emblem pattern that like all kind of luxury brands have. And yeah, like the truth is like the biggest consumer of Range Rovers are probably, you know, wealthy parents of kids that go to private school, celebrities, you know, these are the people who can afford these cars. But this is not who makes these cars cool, right? Like, and this is not, you know, this style, this like gaudy, it's not even gaudy, but like, you know what I mean? Like kind of like
kind of
luxury
ornamental
vibe. Yes, luxury vibe isn't what people are referencing. And I reference like a Range Rover in here, and then my car fan messages me and he's like, that's the 25K model. That's not the one. It's another one, but it is vintage like this. So just so you know, I am not a car person, but was speaking more to the vintage vibe of the Range Rover than that particular model that I linked to.
Well, yeah, I mean, having had several of those, I think anything, it's the 95s and older that we're all fans of.
Yes, exactly. So it's more just like,
which
get
is
it.
That model.
And I think it, actually he was telling me very interesting stuff about the like car market that I'm going to write about soon, because he was really giving me some really good lessons. But I think the point is like the people that are influencing the customer and that are kind of making Range Rover cool, that are, and they've split Defender, Range Rover, and another one like into Discovery into three different brands now. Mm-hmm. So like I feel like they used to be kind of like under one umbrella, but now they're separating them. But the consumer doesn't know that. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Like the consumer has not, like, yes, Defenders are very cool too, but like it's just the visual style of the whole thing. And so to me, like they did what I would say so many brands do, which is they confused who makes their product cool, right? It's not the customer that is making the product cool. They might be the ones that are buying it. And there's certainly, that like, oh, I need one too kind of thing happening. There's only apparently, according to the car fan, there's only 2 cars that, private school people in LA, for example, are driving. And we know that too. That and G-Wagons, in case you want to know.
Right. Heard it here first.
But yes, but yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I think, I think in general, like so many brands, like I think Gap is doing exactly that. Like Gap has got a very broad audience, right? Like an enormous audience, like the world's biggest possibly. I mean, truly, like there are very
Coca-Cola
few brands
might be bigger than Gap, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, but enough. Like from a retail perspective.
Yes.
Like one of the biggest brands.
Yes.
In terms of audience. And yeah, I think that they have realized like, there's these cultural sort of channels that they have to hit, and there's sort of a level of like person that they're trying to like bring into the fold, the aspirational person. And aspirational is different in every single situation, right? Like here, like the Range Rovers, it's not necessarily like, oh, it's the fanciest Range Rover that's aspirational. It's the more, vintage model that's aspirational, and being that kind of cool and in the know, and like you've had one for ages, or you managed to get a really special one and you went to somewhere and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think this brings up a lot of points. To me, goes back to, it's really poignant on the point around brand profiles, around the point of like, your consumer is not this, they make this, and really thinking about the way in which you approach a brand. Yes, there's the customer, but then there's also kind of the cultural reference, the aspirational, right? We talk a lot about like the kind of the target, and the target could be, you're really honing in on that because that's going to be relevant to above, below, sides, age wise, interest wise, across the board. Like you really need to figure out and build the brand around all of those parts, not purely who is actually buying your customer, because that's not necessarily going to be aspirational enough. It goes back to, for me, and I'm totally going to date myself with this, but it goes back to like 17 magazine, right? 17 magazine wasn't made for 17. It was made to be aspirational above and below. It was 13-year-olds that were reading that, right? Because they were like, oh, this is cool. And it's making sure that your brand is always aspirational, which I think they were probably, trying to do, but yeah, definitely didn't hit it.
Totally didn't hit it. And I think, one of the things that, and we can kind of skip to this one if you want to talk about it first, is the sort of end of this demographic and the context and like the searching. And it's like, oh, okay, like what, when someone's coming, first of all, no one's coming to buy a car and starting with probably a ChatGPT search. But, like then when kids are looking for things or whatever, like, and they're basically influencing the car purchases too.
100%.
When they're searching inside of a bigger context, right? And a cooler context. And then eventually, like, they get to where the real customer is. But I think so much of that got forgotten when everybody was just, feeding on the drip of like performance marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And you, in that situation, you really did need to know who your customer was. And you were just marketing just to them, right? Like you're probably feeding that, that mom like, here's a target. She goes to, I want a woman who's in her this age, and she, her kid goes to this school, and you could target her like that. But that age is gone. Like, that went out the window about a year and a half ago, and it's not coming back. That's not coming back in the world of AI. So I think maybe that's where these kinds of errors occurred.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I feel like it's deeper than that. Like, I feel like it's like nobody needs a culture workshop more than Range Rover right now. Like, because to me, this is like, where they were trying to go with the emblem. And then especially what sits out in my mind is the pattern that they created, right? The pattern. Okay, well, we'll do like a Gucci and it'll be looped together, and then people will wear this, and we'll get scarves. We'll get people like take
Terrible.
it. And if you really understand that, and I recently, I wish I could remember this guy's name, watched like, some documentary, as I do.
Of course you did.
I think it was around hip hop, and it was just showing that the influence actually of kind of these repeat patterns were actually like somewhat bootlegged and created by this kind of designer influencer a long time ago. And then, so my point being that this was actually started in culture, and then the brands adapted it and grew from that, versus a brand trying to create something and then put it out in culture and be like, isn't this cool, guys? Like, never going to happen like that. So they need a culture workshop.
Yes. Please get in touch. Yeah, right. I mean, I actually think I've seen them do some cool stuff. Like, they did something cool at Milan Design Week, and like, I think that they have potentially, like, I think that they have the ability to get there. Whatever this was just like a red flag of like, oh, like, you need to, you've missed the mark. Like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not worried about Range Rover recovering. Like, it's a rad brand and they have great cars. And I've had, again, the old school versions. I think I've had 3 of them. So love them. But I think, to your point, like, really understanding if you want to go culture forward, great. Like, almost every brand can go culture forward, but figure out what's really relevant within your brand to do that, versus trying to create something and make it relevant. Don't create a new culture conversation. That's not going to happen. We're here for it. All right. Where do you want to go next? Tyler?
Let's talk about Tyler.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So the thing we're talking about is that Tyler, the creator, came, and this was a quote I pulled from a LinkedIn post that's about something entirely different, but like, don't worry about that. That's how my brain works. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. The rest of the post, like, not relevant to me. It was a good post, just not what I wanted to write about. But he said, he asked his friends why they don't dance in public, and they said that they don't want to be turned into memes. And actually, like, you see this just constantly with people, like, like Caitlin, the basketball player, like, was all over my feed the other day for dancing at the WNBA. And I'm like, God, like, leave this woman alone. Like, let her dance. Like, and of course everyone's like, oh my God, her dance moves. And it's like, please. And I get it, like, how terrible. And so he was saying, that they had a party for the release of his new album, and that they didn't allow cameras. And it really, like, struck me as something that we're seeing a lot more of. Like, we saw that a lot at CAM, that people, CMOs and everybody was like, yeah, like, the best things that are happening are the ones where people aren't allowed to bring their phones. There's no mics, there's no cameras, like, there's no salespeople. And that's not the same, but let's just add that in there. Just so you know. And I think that, I don't know if you, like, included it below to talk about it a little bit, but there's this device that Amazon just acquired this week called B. And B essentially is like an always-on mic that summarizes your conversation, so that, like, if, say, you're in the office and you're just walking around, instead of granola or whatever running on your phone, this device does this too for you, and then it allows you to search for those things. So you could be like, oh, Kirsten and I had a conversation about Range Rover. Like, when did we talk about that? And what did I say? Like, and you can ask it that, and you can ask it, like, basically it becomes like your own, like, LLM, like, search for your own thoughts and conversations, which is like a fascinating concept, a little creepy, but, a fascinating concept nonetheless. And I think that, to me, like, the wearables market is only getting bigger. I think this reality is coming faster than anyone, there's the glasses, there's all sorts of wearable devices, and they're basically always listening to you. And one of the things that ChatGPT has said is that, like, actually when chat is listening to you right now, like, that conversation is not confidential. So if anybody wants to come for you, like, they can just ask if you talked about it. So just FYI, like, don't give it anything that you shouldn't be talking about. But I think, to that end, we've always made fun of brands and restaurants, like, you know, Soho House was an early one to this kind of trend. And then there's been so many restaurants in New York where it's like, oh, no cameras. And we're always like, oh, like, God, they think they're so cool that they don't need to have cameras. This will become absolutely the baseline norm, I think, for conferences, for certain meetings, you know, when you can have a conversation and then be able to search for that conversation and search for really particular quotes that were given at any time. Can you imagine how happy a lawyer is going to be? Like, thrilled to have these devices. They're going to be on you all the time. Terrifying. Yes. And I think, you know, and cameras too, like with the glasses and everything, like, you know, there's lots of conversations around like, oh, well, like you can't tell people are filming, and like, and it's true. So I just see this becoming basically within the next year, probably like a completely normal thing that you will like rescind your devices.
Right. Because it's now becoming a luxury. Like when I first heard that quote, I was like, oh, fuck, like that's terrible for society. Certainly thinking about my kids, like I don't want that, right? I want people, we all should dance. What's the great quote? Yes. Like dance like nobody's watching. Like, and that's really like, I really wholeheartedly believe that and want that. And so I think it's really sad that he identified this, which is, I think, absolutely true. And for sure, something that we've seen at Cannes and other places. And I think the reality is like, we don't have to wear a device. Our phones are listening to us, whether you realize it or not. Like that's happening. That is real.
You can search for that conversation before. And that just changes the paradigm completely. And I think, you know, whether you're setting up a conference in the next year, if you're a brand holding an event, if you're anybody releasing an album, like I think this will become, like I think if you open a club, if you open a restaurant, this will all become very, very commonplace now, where it's like, okay, black box, all devices like get put away.
Yeah, and I think the way that I imagine that Tyler the Creator did it felt like he created an experience around it. Not like I think maybe that's what's changing it. Instead of saying like, nope, you can't have it. Oh, bummer, crap, I don't have my thing. You're like, it's kind of you're invited in to have this exclusive experience. Yeah, because it really is now becoming a luxury, and I think that's what's great for me. Like I think I'm all for that. It's just like in yoga studios, like don't have your phone. Like I don't need the energy of your phone buzzing while we're meditating or whatever it might be. To the next level, I think it's hopefully something that people will embrace as a positive versus I
think people used to see it as like like how ridiculous, and I think now people will see it as like oh thank God, like I'm really pleased, excited. This makes me want to go to that event. It makes me want to go to that thing and go to that place, and you will seek that out. You will be searching for those places that allow you to do them.
And I think the takeaway for brands is really to lean into that, not make it like put your phones in here. You're not allowed to do this, but really like a very freeing, lean into it in a very positive way. And because people want that experience, clearly.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Chapter 11.
That too. Yes. I really wanted to talk about this Claire's bankruptcy part 2 again, because I think it completely doesn't make sense that they weren't able to pivot. And I want to talk about why.
Yeah. We've talked about this a lot. All right. I'm here for it.
You want to talk about it again, or you don't?
No, I definitely no. I feel like my point in saying that is like it's a passionate topic, I know, for you, and it's something that we've talked about, and I think it's really worth kind of unfolding because there's such an opportunity, as we've seen. So no, I want to dig in for sure.
Yeah, like I saw. There's a lot of think pieces on this, and like, and most of them are correct, and most of them are like, hey, like they missed out on the piercing thing, which they did, studs, and all the boutique, like more high-end boutiques, piercing shops like also took over. Like there's so many cool ones now. Every single like, at Bon Marché, they have a piercing center. Like everybody has a cool piercing center. So they missed that moment. But like, to me, actually, like they really missed the sort of, So like, without a doubt, like, let me just say that is something that they're
filing for bankruptcy again. Let's just be clear.
They're filing for bankruptcy again. And my take is that they just never pivoted. But like, the truth is like, Labubus and little tchotchkes could not be bigger than ever. Like, I mean, there are entire businesses that are existing on hair clips. Claw clips could just keep you alive, afloat for maybe years. So this is not a demand. This is not a demand problem. There are plenty of businesses like, oh, what's that one that say, like, I mean, obviously Flying Tiger, but like there's one that say likes that's in Europe. I can't
there's so many. Yeah,
There's
you're not
so
supposed to remember
many
any
of
names
them.
in this, remember? That would throw people off.
Yeah, people would be disappointed. But like my point is that there's a million examples of brand, like even like Muji, like taking over like the small, like the pen section. Like Claire's had all of that. What they did not have was a consumer experience that anyone wanted.
Right.
It wasn't like they had the goods, so to speak, like probably the curation and the right like versions of those things they didn't have, which was a miss. But like you just hire a talented buyer, like you could solve that in an afternoon. But like you can have all the good things you want, but if nobody wants to spend time in your store, which is so critical being a mall brand, like these guys had the spaces. Like that is so hard for brand.
Yeah, and everywhere.
Yeah, and costly to like
Footprints.
get all these places set up, and like you have all of the pieces, like you have all the parts and pieces. What you didn't have was cultural relevance, and you didn't have a store experience that alphas wanted. It is not that hard, guys. Like, I'm sorry, but like whoever was over there, like they should have been fired maybe day 2 of being in there, because clearly they didn't have a plan for how to get back, because nothing changed.
Yeah, I think that's true. Think about it. When we were in Cannes, we saw a Claire's store on whatever that famous street is, and it looked the exact same. Like, and I've been to them with Sailor, and my daughter is the perfect age for that. And I of course, again, dating myself, which I'm happy to do, got my ears pierced at Claire's. So like that would be, well, but also studs. See, you're really bridging that gap. Oh, somebody's calling, but you're really bridging that gap because you did it at both places, right? So I think like I would say like everything about Claire's, the product, like piercing, like there's space for everybody. Get in there and fucking push everybody over. As kind of we talked about previously with studs, they didn't have a ton of money to market about it. They were just really thoughtful, and the store experience was rad and the brand was rad and everything about it. But they were really thoughtful about it. It wasn't like they went everywhere. They were just very thoughtful about their dollars and how they did it. But I think there's opportunity for sure for them to have gotten in that space and pushed, even though the others were already in it. And I think your point about the tchotchkes, like, we can't, the jellycats, all the things that we can't see enough of. And then also, hello, jewelry, like all of that cheap jewelry, like, you see Madewell, you see all of these other brands, creating and really doing well with jewelry. Like they could have killed it. And I think you're absolutely right. It is for sure about cultural relevance and the brand experience. And I think it's a great example and emphasis with how important those two elements are.
Studs is the perfect example. Their strategy was they figured out who was like influencing, and they just picked the neighborhoods that they knew they wanted to have a store in, and they picked the influencers and like all the people that like were cool and interesting, and they sort of made those aspirational people. And the reality is it was a 13-year-old girl who was eventually going to get her ears pierced, like maybe also the 25-year-old girl who's very cool, like, and that's what Studs did so well, is that they made it ready for both. But like, like even in Flying Tiger, like when you go in, it's chaos. I mean, God, my husband, like I have to like basically bribe him if we need to go there. And he hates it so much. But like Harriet, my daughter, like thinks this place is like truly like heaven on earth. But the way that they lead you through the store makes that experience much more manageable. And you're like, oh, okay, like now we're in the crafting section. Now we're in this section. Now we're here. Like, and of course that's not right for Claire's, but like when you went into the stores, there's like all of these rolling turny racks that like the product, you're like, what is this? Like, it's like, it's like there's nothing contemporary, nothing modern about the store experience, nothing trying to make it a store experience. It's just like, here's some stuff.
Here's some stuff.
And you're like, and that doesn't work today. Absolutely. Like alphas want a place to go. They're desperate for a place to go. And you need to create a space that they want to go to and spend time in. And Claire's did absolutely not even the bare minimum to create that experience.
I think that is such an important point. And I think what came up for me when you're talking about that is also Sephora. Sephora is a really hectic experience. And so I think there's such an opportunity. Like I need to be bribed to go into Sephora. There's such an opportunity. Like, it's not like saying, oh, Claire's, you got to be more modern. You got to like clean it up. You got to be, nope. You can be overwhelming AF and still create the consumer journey. They never ever thought about, okay, customer's going to come in here. They're going to want this. And then we're going to get them a cash wrap with this. And then maybe they'll go over here. Like, you don't have to drive them the way that Flying Tiger is literally like, you have to go in this direction. But I think to really have that of actually thinking through the consumer experience and what they're going to go through and match the merchandising up to that, would have absolutely changed the game.
Yeah, like the way that your daughter, I know that like everybody does birthday kits now. It's like, birthday basket. And like Claire's should have become the birthday basket destination, right? Like it should have been like, this is, where do I want to go to like make my basket for my friend? Or where do I want to go when my mom says like, we can go make a birthday basket? Like, why did they not evolve to like, this, it's like they were made for this moment and they just like closed 100%. Their eyes and were just like, ah.
I think I'm going to put it out there. I mean, like, I think they could still have the moment because I think even though Studs is there, even though this is there, there's still such an opportunity, as we've talked a lot about. There isn't a space for alphas, and they could really lean into that and really create that, because all of the shit that is in my kids' room, like, they're buying that somewhere, right? And so to really lean into all of that stuff, I think there's still an opportunity. Sometimes maybe third time's the charm. If you want to talk about a brand and how we can help you create an experience, here for it. All right, what's next?
We only have a few more, 15 more minutes. So what do we want to touch on? I could go all day about how brand personas are dead, but maybe that's a bigger conversation for another day.
Let's save that. Yep.
Let's talk about some jingles, some fun jingles, because there are two of them in here.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that was interesting that I read the other day, probably from Rachel Carton, but I'm not positive, was that one of the reasons why jingles are becoming like a thing is because of all the fear around getting sued for music licenses on TikTok, because they took away all the music libraries.
Interesting.
Right? So like there's not like, because of that disagreement, like now there's not as much access to great music, so you can't use the music for your ads. And so there's like this bigger kind of realization like, hey, actually maybe we just make our own song. So maybe that's why this is happening, maybe not. It's also just fun. But the two examples that I have in here are Marks and Spencer's Picky Bits song and the DIY Diagnosis song, which is also hysterical. And so the Picky Bits song is, I think what's funny about both of these is that they are both songs, I don't know if they're written by AI or not. Doesn't really matter to me, actually, because I think it's more the style of the song and the like funniness of the song. So if AI helped, great. But they're both kind of humor forward. They were both delivered by influencers. Like an influencer introduced the song into the ether and then they released the song as like a sound. And I don't think anyone's necessarily using the song as a sound, but it's fun. It's fun as a background, like entertainment thing to release the ads. So the Picky Bit song is about Marks and Spencer's, and like they have really managed, like at least in the UK, like this whole Picky Bits, like people refer to it as like, I want to get some Picky Bits like the Marks and Spencer's Picky Bits, but from somewhere else. Like it's like Kleenex now. Like
wow,
they've become synonymous with picnicking, even if you're not getting your picnic things from Marks and Spencer's. Like it's sort of like, I think people always in England refer to them colloquially as Picky Bits, but now Picky Bits has become synonymous with Marks and Spencer's.
I mean, that's kudos to whoever created that, because that is hard to do. So well
done. Yeah. I think, and so I think it's just interesting to see people having fun. The DIY Diagnosis is taking a very serious topic that so many people are talking about on the internet, about like perimenopause and menopause, and like why, like there's no great studies on perimenopause, and like why is this happening to me, and why are there no answers? And people are literally DIYing their diagnosis from TikToks. Like this is a terrible, terrible reality that like women all over the globe are experiencing. But then to like put words to it and like make it something that we can all collectively just like kind of like laugh and cringe about together is just so powerful, right? And it was a really small brand that did that.
Yeah, which I think is amazing. I think there's really something here. Like what I thought about when you first kind of brought this up was the Minecraft movie, and not how disruptive they are, but my kids will still sing that every time we see the movie, which is fairly often. And I think there is something culturally, about kind of creating these, and you sing it over, and Sailor will sing it outside of it. Like I think there's something really about it, and really leaning into it, almost, coming off of the Tyler the Creator kind of statement about not wanting to dance. It almost kind of pushes you into kind of being comfortable, but being a little bit, being a little bit playful, being a little bit out there, being a little bit fun within these jingles, but you're still in a safe space because somebody else wrote it. But I think there's something culturally happening within these for sure. And I think we'll see more of it. Like this would be an interesting topic to dig into with Jasmine Bina. Like I'd be curious her take on this because I think there's something here, big picture for sure.
Yes. And one day we should talk about alpha songs because honestly, the game in the alpha song world that's happening right now, like Bluey has like several viral songs that are actually really good. Barbie has like not Barbie the movie, but like Barbie the show has like some that we as a family are subjected to that are actually they're bangers. They're like we're singing along. And the level of like alpha music, like what used to be kind of songs related to, I feel like when I grew up, like songs related to shows were just like throwaway songs. Like, we all love Reading Rainbow, but it wasn't like amazing. I mean, it is an amazing song, but like, like there's like these songs are actually like really well done, and one day we should talk about that because
I think there's something here too. We just on the way to school camp this morning, we listened to a couple songs from Greece, right? Like I think there is something about it that is kind of in these. You can sing along with it, like it's happy that I think there's something happening here that we should for sure dig into more when we have time. All right.
Let's pick one last thing. What do you want to talk about? I would assume that you want to talk about the future of woo-woo medicine, but we could also talk about destination dupes.
I mean, can we talk about both? Which time we got?
All right. Let's make it fast. Okay. So the woo-woo like health, the future of health. Right? So I strung together a bunch of things in this particular post, but I want to focus on like one particular area of it, which was a comment that I saw by Fit Insider. Who is doing a conference in Miami that I am and you are both desperate to go to.
Yeah. If anybody knows anybody, if you want to invite us, 100% here for it.
Yeah, I'm working behind the scenes to try to get us.
Oh, great.
But they made this comment that was like, okay, like what is the sort of future of healthcare? And they were saying like, mental and physical therapies are deeply intertwined, which we both know. Like, if you're wondering what's happening to you and you don't know why, if it's not perimenopause, it's probably your brain. Anyway, so they were talking about that and they were saying like, the next level of clinics will really be these ones that kind of have all of these ancillary like services like peptides. It's specifically, I would say, sub-Q injectable peptides, but shockwave, PRP, acupuncture, float therapy, like, all of the neuromodulation, like all of these things, like the list goes on. And I think that's truly like what I'm seeing. And I think it's interesting because right now we're seeing this surge of like hospitality and wellness places beginning to offer these things. But I think that they're still living in this like kind of gray zone where wellness is starting to encroach on health care, and I think actually what we'll see soon is like there'll be the wellness package of it, but there will be a healthcare like segment of it where it's much more focused on like true health, like much more like of a holistic, but not holistic look at health.
Yeah.
The redefining of holistic, I would say.
Totally. Yeah. 100% with you. I think this is clearly something that's happening. If people aren't aware of this, like this is where things are going within wellness for sure. There's not a question about it. I think it's just to what degree, and it's way more than we're seeing now. And I think people really everyone that we are seeing are typically using like, oh, well, let's take the current model and just make it better versus completely reimagining what it could and more importantly should be. Whether it's figuring out perimenopause, whether it's figuring out like, body scanning, whatever it might be, like floating, acupuncture, all the things.
Yeah, and I think we saw a wave maybe 5 years ago, maybe even less, of like high street, I would say, like health and wellness, longevity things, and they didn't do well, right? They went out of business, a lot of them. I think that they were just basically like a little bit too ahead of their time, and often too focused on like one particular thing. Like it's like, oh, we're just offering MRIs. And it's like, how often do you need an MRI? But I mean, I'm sure that they'll argue you need them every 6 months, but like no one's buying that, And so it's like, but once you start kind of offering, especially like peptides and all of these things that people are seeing as like very regular kind of treatments, and in Myo, or I don't know if that's how you say it. Myo is this like like a reinvention of physiotherapy, and they like offer a lot of like holistic things. So I think it's like something like that, but expanded, like it's bigger than what they're offering even currently. And I think maybe a lot of these brands, like I wouldn't say necessarily like the model can't work. I think that many of them just weren't quite the right model.
Right. I think that's something. I mean, I think it's like looking at Google Glass and looking at what Ray-Ban's now doing. Like it's just the right time. It's the right appetite for it. They're doing it the right way. All the things.
Yeah, and the right like level of it, right? Like I think when it was Google Glass, it was like, oh, let's use this like pretty shitty product and like try to sell people on it. But now it's like, okay, like we have a product that actually is working and that's proven to work. And I think with a lot of these, it's like, okay, like now we actually have a lot of these kind of things and they're working.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that will increase actually with AI. All right, let's talk about destination dupe quickly.
Yes, I just need to know to book my next vacation, so let's do it.
Yes, I'm big into destination dupe headspace right now myself. Yeah, so 63. I love how I did that, transpose those numbers. 63% of US adults like opting for alternatives are basically like the Azores over Hawaii, Croatia over Italy. I would argue that Croatia is no longer a dupe. Like it is well past that point. I think actually even the Azores, but like my point is I don't think this is just coming from a financial perspective, but it is coming from a financial perspective. And it's like one like sort of branch of it. Another branch of it is that people are, I think for a while it was very fun to like turn up at this like very cool croissant shop and like, oh, like, you'd laugh and it's a really long line. And I think that age of like turning up to these like trendy TikTok shops and it's just like, oh God, like I don't want to do this again. And I think so many people just are like becoming fatigued with the sort of the trendy thing, the like it thing, and they want something more authentic. I think that's why we're seeing so many travel agencies popping up, and there's so many businesses where it's like travel like a local and like local travel agents working with you and taking you to like their grandmother's house to have like coffee and a donut that she made versus like standing in line for 45 minutes to have like what is probably a pretty mediocre donut at this point.
Right. I mean, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think it really is leaning more into the experience of it. I think about in my own travels, I was talking about Croatia. I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and you were saying your brother went there. Like there's just in the conversation, like it seems to be something that people, I know I certainly am, are looking for. Like, if you've already done kind of the bigger things, like looking for something that is a little bit more off the beaten path. And I think then more of an experience and really kind of leading into that part of it.
I'll say that I do think that there is a little bit of off the beaten path, and like we can talk about gentrification all day if we want to, but I do think that there's also this like expectation at the moment, like the reason that Mallorca is so big or Menorca is getting big, and like Dave and I are looking at going to Comporta in Portugal, is that there's like, while people want like authentic and they do want like kind of this like off the beaten path, the truth is they don't actually want to be like uncomfortable and not staying at a
100%.
cool and chic hotel.
100%.
And, you could roll your eyes at that, but like I pick and choose like every destination by the bedspread. Like I cannot, like if the bedspread is not looking good, like I'm not staying at your hotel. Like I don't care where you are or what you're doing. And I think so much of it is like you do have to kind of like the places that are rising up that are dupes have figured that out.
Yes.
Like they're not unaware. And I think there's so many places that like I look at it and I'm just like, God, like if you just buy some new bedspreads, like we'll be like 50% of the way there.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. But it feels like many places there's more like, great, like let's go to a place like, somewhere off the beaten path that is doing cool things, that has a rad brand, that's doing interesting things, versus like staying at the Fairmont or Soho House, even in like a larger city. Like it feels like you're onto something and having more of a unique experience.
Yes, I am fatigued.
Emerging destination.
Yes, I am fatigued by like the Californication of like some of these places. Like, like I love going to like the south of France, and I don't need the south of France to look like a surf shop from LA. Like maybe close, but doesn't need to, like, I think like it still needs to be personalized. And I'd say like the other thing that I think that so many big sort of sites for like searching is like a lot of these places like are doing such an incredibly poor job of like surfacing these options as like a great place to go. You know, like I think about it all the time as similar to Etsy, right? Like Etsy has a million things on it that are actually valuable and absolutely zero way of finding those things in a good way. Like just terrible. And I would say, you know, like that's why I like Amigo, but Amigo is definitely like a 5-star, like these are where you get 5-star hotel reviews and it's great for that. And I like it for that if I'm, you know, not unhappy about staying in a 5-star hotel. But if I'm looking for a 4-star hotel or a 3-star hotel or like something else, like it's not a great place for that. And there is no great place for that, in my opinion. Like there's TikTok, but like, you know, I don't want to end up where everybody is on TikTok. And I think so many places, Booking doesn't do a great job at it. I think they rely on like influencers and like affiliates to do that for them through Substack. And there is kind of that happening on Substack. But I'd say that there's a world of potential for just like surfacing good options that are off the beaten path. And why aren't they doing it? And you have AI now, so like let's like hurry up and do it.
No excuses.
No,
such an opportunity.
I don't want to hear it anymore.
We all want to travel more. I don't know if we want to stay at 3-star places, but we want to travel more. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while, but I think that there can be really nice 3-star hotels.
All right. You can let me know about them. All right. I think we've run out of time.
All right. This was fun. Hope everybody enjoyed it. If there was anything that you think we got wrong, missed, want to, you know, vent about yourself, we'd love to hear it in the comments. And let us know if there's any particular topics or things that you're interested in hearing us talk about, or anyone that you want us to interview on the show. All of it. We're taking all of the feedback. Yeah,
we would absolutely love to hear. And if this resonated with you, we'd love you to share it. We'd love you to give it a little algorithmic love.
Yes.
Until next time, stay curious.
Ciao, ciao. That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.